Yo, what's going on? This is Sure Enough with Sure Enough Gaming and TV. I'm back with a brand new series today. It's totally high history where we're going to be dropping these videos every Thursday on this channel, telling y'all some of the most influential and weird history of the United States, mostly from like the Civil War era up to like, the early 1900s. So we're going to go ahead and jump straight into the video. Today we're going to be talking about Shepherdstown, West Virginia. The year's 1862. It's September 17th. The battle at Antietam is raging. Shepherdstown, West Virginia has become a makeshift infirmary for 5,000 to 8,000 casualties of this battle from both sides. And so every house, the stores, the streets, even the churches are filled with hurt or dying soldiers. General Robert E. Lee, he decides to retreat south across the Potomac River at Pack Horse Ford, okay? And so Robert E. Lee, he leaves General William Pendleton with 600 soldiers and 44 cannons on the south side of the Potomac River to defend from a potential attack from the north. And the reason that they wanted to do that here is because the south side of the Potomac River has steep drop-offs, okay? And the land's rough. There's plenty of large trees for cover. I'm actually going to post a picture on here right now of me standing in one of the trees that still actually has, bullets in it from the Civil War. And I'm also going to post a picture of like the cliffs and stuff right now as well. But this is where the Battle of Shepherdstown, West Virginia will take place on the 19th and the 20th. So, back to the story. So like I said, General Pendleton, he had 600 soldiers and 44 cannons. He had short range cannons in the front and long range cannons in the back. And out of the 44 cannons, he only ended up using 33 because he couldn't find a location for the other 11 that he thought was good enough to use. And so on the 19th, Alfred Pleasonton leads a troop with 15 cannons and 2,000 infantry to the north side of the Potomac River to start this battle. And the North was winning because the North's cannons were a lot better. They were more accurate and they could shoot farther. So they were winning this battle. At dusk, 60 men from the 1st U.S. sharpshooters, crossed the ford with cover from the 4th Michigan Infantry. And the 60 men that crossed, they only lost 4 people. So Pendleton, he retreats and he tells Robert E. Lee that all the artillery was lost and that essentially the North had made their way across the river, which they had successfully made their way across the river. And so on the morning of the 20th, the Confederacy counterattacks the North with help from Hill's Light Division. And so the Confederacy had roughly 2,000 soldiers that morning to counterattack the 3 brigades that the North had. The North withdrew and they pushed them back across the river, except for the 118th Division Pennsylvania Infantry. And that's where most of the losses from the Battle of Shepherdstown on the north side came from, because they took massive losses because they didn't retreat back north across the river. And so now there's another 162 people dead in Shepherdstown, West Virginia. It ended up being 63 Confederates and 99 from the North, and plenty more hurt. So we're back to the town being littered, right? Well, there's a building that's right next to the library. This is where they were taking people that needed amputations. So the building was filled with, hurt and dying soldiers who were listening to, the cries and screams of their comrades while they were having their limbs sawed off, knowing they're next. So all these limbs start piling up. They don't know what to do with all these limbs. So they start throwing them from the 2nd story window into these wagons, and they start taking them down to the Potomac River, and they dump them all in the river. And so to this day, the Potomac River is still scattered with the limbs of all these soldiers from these 2 battles, Antietam and then the Battle of Shepherdstown, West Virginia. And I'm going to go ahead and point out right here, a lot of Confederates were actually buried in Shepherdstown, West Virginia after this. And they were buried on private land, which in 1868 ended up becoming Elmwood Cemetery, and there's 285 Confederate soldiers still buried there to this day. Back to the story. So we're going to go ahead and wrap that up as the Battle of Shepherdstown, West Virginia. And the next thing we're going to talk about is a lady named Serena Catherine Dandridge, who was born March 15th of 1878. Her mom was Caroline Dane and her father was Adam Stephen Dandridge III. Now she was known for her strong beliefs, her art, drawings, paintings, poems, and writings, and her love for nature. And so Serena moves to Washington, D.C., where she gets a job at the National Museum. During her time there, she would draw hundreds of realistic depictions of marine life. And they would go on to get published in scientific journals. And it wasn't just drawing that she did. She went on expeditions as well and collected around 1,000 specimens for marine sites to make sure that she was painting them in their actual natural color. And so the reason that she goes down in Shepherdstown, West Virginia history, not just because she was born in Jefferson County in West Virginia, but it's because of her fight to save the cedar trees. And so what happened was the state of West Virginia essentially declared war on red cedar trees because they were destroying the apple trees that local farmers were trying to grow. And she didn't want to have any part of them destroying all of these red cedar trees. I'm not talking about just a couple. I mean, there's people that had 500 plus trees on their private property cut down. And so she was so strong on her beliefs in this that she ended up gaining supporters in the town of Shepherdstown, West Virginia for it. And they actually organized a league to defend property owners and elected her the secretary of it. On her journey to save these red cedar trees, she actually got arrested, not once but twice, for interfering with lumberjacks trying to do their job, because the government in West Virginia was demanding that all of the trees be cut down, and she didn't see a purpose in it because right across the Potomac River in Maryland, where they weren't cutting down trees, there was red cedars, and so it wouldn't really help the state grow apples. One of the places that she had gotten arrested for the trees being cut down, they wanted to put a church on it years later. And so they start excavating all the land, right, to build this church. And they hit this massive, I mean massive, skeleton. And they didn't know what it was. So they called in experts. And people come out and they determine that it's actually a 100% intact elephant skeleton. So they're like, what was an elephant doing in West Virginia? What ended up happening is there was a traveling circus that would come to town once a year. And they had an elephant. Everybody's favorite part about the circus was this elephant that they would bring. And so one year comes and they weren't going to do it. But the town of Shepherdstown insisted that they came because they loved this elephant so much. And the elephant had had a baby and they were like excited as could be about these elephants. And so they agreed to come. The mother elephant got protective over her baby and essentially started trampling people. So people were getting killed. And so they killed the elephant. But they didn't know how to remove the elephant. So the solution they came up with was, we're just going to bury the elephant where it lays. And so they buried the elephant where it died. And that's what they dug up. So they ended up building the church, not right there, but 100 feet away, several yards. And they also built a small chapel out back, right? This is where Miss Violet comes back into play. She was just an amazing woman all around, okay? Not only was she known as Miss Violet, the local people in the town would also call her Old Pie because she was the Pied Piper for dozens of kids in the area, right? And so in her later years, she had a farm where she would raise cattle and sheep. And so she would milk the cows, and then she would ride around with the local black men and sell the milk to help them make some money. And at the chapel, which, was built right there where she was arrested for trying to save these trees, she ended up teaching a class for African American children in the area. And she would teach it every Sunday after the white Sunday school happened in the afternoons. And the kids would even go out to her farm to spend time with her, and they would play with the animals and ride the ponies and stuff like that. And so this is why Serena Catherine Dandridge, also known as Miss Violet or Old Pie, goes down in Shepherdstown, West Virginia history. She has an amazing story. She's a great lady, super talented, and yeah, she definitely deserved to be remembered in the history books, and she definitely did. She is still remembered in the history books, and it needs to stay that way. Now, Miss Violet, she passed away on November 7th, 1956. And that's where her story ends. So I'm going to need y'all right now to go ahead and smash that thumbs up for me. Subscribe to the channel if y'all haven't already subscribed. Hit that bell for notifications. Go ahead and give me a comment in here. Tell me if there's anything in the Civil War era you want me to cover. But I'll let y'all know right now, next week is going to be the Battle of Antietam. We're going to get into detail on that. And I'm going to catch y'all there. Y'all have a good one.